Welcome to the Bazaar. Today we're going to make Pokemon card puzzles. I've got a problem, and it's Pokemon cards. Every collector knows the sad truth that is endless energies and so many bulk cards that you have nothing to do with. Well, today we're going to give some of those cards a second life. Here's everything I'll be using today. But don't worry, I'll be going over everything step by step. Previously, I already made some acrylic backers that are the same height and width as a standard Pokemon card, and some centers made out of chipboard that are the same height and width as a Pokemon card, along with a slight radius on the corners that match the cards as well. So what is chipboard? Well, chipboard's kind of like cardboard, but unlike cardboard that has those corrugated zigzags in the middle to make a cushion, chipboard is one solid piece. It's kind of like thick paper. I've done a lot of testing, and I found that approximately 1.25 millimeter thick chipboard works as a really great analog for jigsaw puzzles. And so that's what I'm going to be using today. The acrylic we're going to be using today is really just any hard surface that we can clamp to. If you think about it, we're going to be making basically a Pokemon card sandwich. So we're going to have one card on top, the chipboard in the middle, and then another card on the bottom. And when we glue it together, we're going to want lots of pressure that's evenly distributed. So I went ahead and used some acrylic to cut out the size of a Pokemon card so that we can easily line them up and press them flat together. Now, if you want to use a piece of plywood or even some heavy books, that would work great. I've made quite a few of these for me, investing in some time to make some small pieces of acrylic that I can use as presses, it's been worth it. Whenever cutting with a laser cutter, you have the possibility of getting some charring around the cut line. And sometimes you can wash it off, sometimes you can't. In my experience making these puzzles, you can't really get the char off the cards. So I'm going to use some light grip painter's tape or masking tape over the front and back of the cards so that when we do cut it, the painter's tape gets charred and not the cards. The first step is going to be masking off the face of the cards that are going to be cut by the laser. So all we're going to do is take one of our cards and some masking tape. Give ourselves a little bit of insurance on that distance. And I'd rather have a little bit of overlap than a gap, because any gap will have char when the laser cuts it. And I'm going to cut the excess. You don't have to be super precise or anything like that. It just makes it a little bit easier to manage. All right. And just like that. Done. And remember, for every face card we do, we're going to have to do the back of a card as well. So I'm just using energies as the back. Okay, and now we have the two cards ready to be used for our puzzle. Now that we've got the tape mostly cleaned up, we're ready for the next step. To make sure the glue sticks to the back of our cards, which are pretty glossy and smooth, we're going to need to add a little texture to them. So I've got some medium grit, 120 grit sandpaper here, And all we're going to do is lightly sand the back of the cards so that the surface isn't so smooth. You don't have to go crazy with the sanding. Just make sure you don't miss any spots, and we don't want to leave that dust on there, so we're going to wipe it off with a dry cloth. So the plan is to glue the face card to the chipboard and the back card to the chipboard, and then sandwich them between the acrylic. And now you can see why I cut the acrylic to the exact size of a card, so it's easy to line up. And then we're just going to take our clamps and clamp it all together. All right, let's get to it. I went ahead and already poured some of that E6000 glue into a little plastic cup. The spray nozzle on these bottles isn't very good, and you won't get an even coat on your chipboard. So I just use a cheap brush and paint on the glue. Now, chipboard is really thirsty, so it's going to absorb the whole first coat. So I'm going to do a coat on the front like this, turn it over, do a coat on the back, and then I'm going to do another quick coat on the front. You see it's already absorbing into the chipboard. Just another quick one to keep it wet. Put that face card on it. Don't worry, it takes a little bit to dry, so we're going to be all right. Do the second coat on the back. Again, making sure just to make sure the whole card is wet with glue. And then we're going to take the back card, put it on, take our acrylic clamping backs, line it all up, one clamp, and two clamps. And I don't know if you can see, but there's some glue squeeze out, and that's perfectly fine. That's one of the benefits of doing the masking first, so that when this is dry and we take this off, the glue won't stick to the card or the acrylic, so it'll be easy to take apart. All right, so I'm going to do that a couple more times because I'm going to make a couple of puzzles, and I'll be right back. So we're all clamped up and ready to wait for the glue to dry. I like to give them overnight to dry so that we don't have to worry about any of the cards coming off. So I'll see you tomorrow. And just like that, we're back. So now I'm going to take it apart, and one of the reasons why I like using acrylic for this is the acrylic doesn't stick to the glue very well. So it pops on. All right, and so we have one of our blanks now ready to go. Alright, and it's time to get laser cutting. Alright, it's time to get cutting. So off camera, I went ahead and made myself a little template using my favorite thing, cardboard. So I always index my templates so I know exactly where to place them in the laser cutter. So on mine, the home position is the back right corner. So I went ahead and put the sheet of cardboard directly against the top right corner. And now I know every time I put this in there, if I put the cards right here, it'll always line up perfectly. Let's get started. One slightly disappointing feature of the Polar is that the honeycomb bed here is not magnetic. So if I want to keep a piece flat, typically I would want to use little magnets to hold the piece flat. But with a non-magnetic honeycomb bed, that's not an option. So I found these 3D printable clips online, and I printed out just a ton of them so that I can easily register anything I want on my honeycomb bed. I'll leave a link to the file I used in the description. Everything's in place, so let's hop on over to Lightburn. I have two cut layers, one for the puzzle pieces themselves and another for the perimeter of the cards, which is how I made the cardboard template. I'm going to frame just the pieces, just to make sure everything looks about right. Here are some of the settings that I've used, but remember, it all depends on your personal machine. I'm going to lower the laser down to 14 millimeters because I know that the card stack is about 3 millimeters tall. And before running any job, it's always a good idea to run a preview, just so you know what to expect and to catch any glaring mistakes. Alright, everything looks great, so it's time to get cutting. Okay, let's see how they came out. These little dental picks are great for this kind of thing. So we can see we probably need another single pass. So I'm gonna put that back in the jig, and we're gonna run it one more time. And here I am just lowering that number of passes and doing another quick check just to make sure everything looks about right. Lowered the laser just a little bit more because we've already cut through most of the card. Safety check. And we're off. Oh, looks like one of the corners isn't all the way pushed down. I can pause the job on the OhmTech Polar by just pressing the big circular button, and then when I put the lid down and press the button again, it'll just resume exactly where it left off. Okay, these look much better. I really like seeing on this Pikachu one that the pieces are already falling apart. So we're all the way through. So here we can see why that masking tape is so important. On my fingers, we're already getting some soot from the laser cutter. And if we didn't mask it, that would be all over the cards rather than on the masking tape. So the best way I found to do this requires just a little bit of patience and elbow grease. We're going to use another cloth, and then I have a spritz bottle just full of plain water. We don't want to get anything wet, but we do need a little bit of mist on our towel so that while we're removing the ash from the puzzle pieces, we're not just wiping it on the cards themselves. So each piece we're going to need to clean around the whole perimeter first. And then we're going to peel off the masking tape carefully. All right. And just like that, we have our first piece. I'm gonna go ahead and do that 24 more times. Phew! Cleaning those pieces can be tedious and time consuming, but if you take your time and keep your fingers clean, you'll end up with really great looking, sharp, clean puzzle pieces. And all this soot and ash is just from one little puzzle. So take your time and they'll come out great. And just like that, we have an awesome handmade Pokemon puzzle made from real Pokemon cards. And they're double-sided. And don't worry, the pieces fit perfectly together. Look at that. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had fun and learned something, and I hope you enjoy your cool new puzzles. Thanks again, and I can't wait to see you next time at the Bazaar. Bye-bye. Thanks again for joining me today. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.